evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We're starting right about now. So good evening, everyone. We welcome you to the Covenant Nation Human Resource Professional Group Thought Leadership Session. So this evening, we will be having a thought leadership session, and our focus specifically will be on vaccinations, employee well-being, and workplace normalcy. My name is Opawoye, and I will be one of your anchors this evening, and I'm a human resource management practitioner. Before I hand over to our group head of the Covenant Nation Human Resource Professional Group, Emma Clark, who will formally open this event for today, I would like to go through a few housekeeping rules. So in the course of this meeting, we expect that we ask that you please put your microphones on mute. We ask that you also please try not to share your video so that it doesn't put pressure on the bandwidth. And we recognize that there will be questions as the presenter makes their presentation. Please drop your questions in the chat box. It will be picked up and responded to by the speaker when we're handling the Q&A session. We're happy to have you here, and it promises to be a very insightful, engaging, and power-packed session this evening. Thank you for joining in again, and I'll hand over to our governor, Emma Clark. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm happy to have you here today. This is the Covenant Nation. We're a Bible-believing church established by Pastor Opawoye in 1994. We've been on since 1994. And this is an expression of the Covenant Nation. We're referred to as the TCN HR Professionals Group. We're a group of HR professionals who have come together to develop ourselves career-wise, professionally. And then also, this is a context where professionals can network with thought leaders in various aspects of human resources and different areas of human resources. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that is very pertinent to all of us. We're going to be looking at how COVID-19 affects employee well-being and how it also impacts on workplace normalcy. Since early 2020, we've all gone through this disruption in our lives. We woke up one morning and we found out that things had suddenly changed because of this little virus called COVID-19, which has sort of like disrupted our lives. A lot of us are working from home now. We're not working in the office anymore, or at least we're working from the home or working from the office. There's so many things that have been disrupted. Will we ever go back to things being normal again? And if we are going to go back to things being normal again, how is that going to happen? We've convened this event for this very reason. We want to discuss with medical experts and find out from them what the COVID-19 vaccines have to do with our being able to go back to the way things used to be. We also want to discuss with medical practitioners and find out from them what our role as HR practitioners, is in ensuring that the workplace goes back to normal. The pundits will have us believe that it is vaccinations that will help us to return to the workplace environment. So today, we're going to be listening to experts who have engaged with the subject of COVID-19 vaccinations, who have had a lot of experience treating COVID patients, who have worked hands in, over the last couple of months with different patients who've been ill, who've been sick, some have died, a lot of people have survived. We just want to hear from them about what this entire vaccination business is all about. So without any further ado, I want to continue to welcome you once again to this wonderful event. It promises to be an extremely exciting event. I can already see that Dr. Japhet is on the ground. He's raring to go and is waiting to talk to us about the COVID vaccines. And he's also waiting to answer a lot of your questions. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand you back to Ope, who will introduce Dr. Japhet, and then we'll listen to Dr. Japhet, and then also listen to the other speakers who will be coming to talk to us about different topics relating to COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma, for that introduction and opening. Okay, so Dr. Japhet is a public health physician an epidemiologist with over 12 years post-qualification experience. He has strong passion for humanitarian activities, social criticism, good governance, public health, and has been greatly involved in health awareness creation in many fora and many social media platforms. He has obtained many certificates in health and medical related courses. Dr. Japhet also has a master's degree in public health from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. He is an alumni of the University of Boston, where he obtained the postgraduate diploma in pediatric nutrition, PGPN. He is also an MBA student of the Ajayi Crowther University. He is the medical officer of health, primary healthcare coordinator for Apapa Igomu Local Council Development Area. Dr. Japhet was appointed as the chairman committee on COVID-19 for the Nigerian Medical Association Lagos, and he was sent to represent the association on the Emergency Operations Center for COVID-19 in February 2020, when the pandemic reached Nigeria. He has recently been appointed as the chairman ad hoc committee on infectious diseases, NMA Lagos. He's a member of the Association of Public Health Physicians of Nigeria. He's a member, Association of Medical Officers of Health of Nigeria. He's the chartered president, First Rotaract Club of LASUCOM, two-time chairman, Polio Committee of the Rotary Club of Amuwo, three-time public image director of the Rotary Club Amuwo, supervisor for Ojo Local Government, Nigerian Rotary Reproductive Health and Family Health Program. Dr. Japhet is a member, Rotary Family Health Doctor Committee. He's also internal auditor, Nigeria Medical Association, Lagos between 2018 to 2020, Secretary Protocol Committee, Nigeria Medical Association between 2018 to 2020, Secretary of the Menstrual Hygiene Committee of the Nigerian Medical Association. Dr. Japhet is also the Rep Council member, Medical Guild, a guest lecturer, Lagos State College of Health Technology. He's the founder and executive director, Japhet Olugbogi Foundation. He's the assistant team lead and physician, project member, Lagos State MICH program, member, Rota Kids Committee. Dr. Japhet has made over 150 radio and TV appearances, communicating risks on COVID and other public health issues. He has made appearances on International News Canada and also made an appearance on a live Kenya TV show. He has also made several keynote speeches and won several awards. Dr. Japhet enjoys traveling, playing chess, swimming, and watching football. He is married with two beautiful kids. With Jesus joy, people, let's welcome Dr. Japhet this evening to our session. Welcome, Dr. Japhet. Over to you. You have 25 minutes for your presentation, and then we'll take a couple of minutes for questions and answers. Thank you, Dr. Japhet. Over to you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to present topic, pros and cons of vaccine uptake. You would permit me to edit the last word to uptake, the impacts workplace.
Dr. Japhet, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's a lot better now. It's better now.
Can you see my slides now?
No, we can't see your slides yet. I think it's coming up. I think your audio is a bit in and out. Maybe you may want to use your... Okay, your screen is loading now. Yes, we can see your screen now. Yes, it's up now, but your audio is still a bit in and out. So if you can maybe use your earphones or something.
Okay, how is my audio now?
It's a lot better, thank you.
Yeah, like I said, apologies, I had to tweak the topic a little. pros and cons of vaccine uptake, the impact on the workplace normalcy. Here I have an outline, very brief outline, but does justice to what we want to talk about. I will be doing some form of introduction, then show you some statistics, pros and cons of the vaccine, the rumors, and the impact on the workplace. Nigeria received about 3.94 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine in March, and this was provided to Nigeria by the COVAX facility, which is a partnership between some NGOs and the WHO. The vaccine was manufactured by the Serum Institute of India, by the Oxford University, and the AstraZeneca Pharmaceuticals. The vaccine was codenamed AZD122, and it was sold under so many names, including Covishield. It is given by intramuscular injection on the left upper arm. Yes, it is given on the left upper arm because it is decided to be given on the less dominant arm. So some people who are left-handed, they want to take theirs on the right upper arm. The vaccine is 76% efficacious, preventing symptomatic COVID-19, beginning at day 22 after taking the first dose. That is, if you take the first dose at on the 2nd of March, that means by 24th of March, that individual would have 76% chance of being protected from developing symptoms of COVID-19. Now, when the individual takes the second dose, it increases to about 81% after taking the second dose. That is 81% chances of not having COVID-19. The AstraZeneca vaccine is a viral vector vaccine which uses a genetically engineered virus that cannot cause disease, but it can mimic a real virus, a live virus, and then by so doing, it can stimulate the body to produce proteins, which in turn will stimulate the body as the body's immune system, immune reaction. The AstraZeneca vaccine phase 3 clinical trial involved 32,000 plus participants. Now, this is very important because, like so many people have said, one of the lows of these vaccines is that they were rushed. But the fact that they were rushed does not mean that they are not potent. Because if you want to develop vaccines, it can take as long as 10 to 15 years to have a veritable vaccine developed, produced and developed. But these COVID-19 vaccines had to be expedited because the world needed a vaccine or some vaccines to be able to deal with COVID-19. NAFDAC and Son declared the vaccine safe when they arrived in Nigeria. The AstraZeneca vaccine is being used in Nigeria, Austria, Brazil, so many other countries all over the world. Some countries stopped or paused the use of vaccines because of fear of side effects. But those countries have now resumed using the vaccine back after investigations reveal that the vaccine is actually safe to be used. And those countries include France, Finland, Georgia, and thereabouts, and so many other countries like that. This is the vaccine. It comes in a 5-minute vial. This one can be stored from +2 degrees Celsius to +8 degrees Celsius. And it is in 0.5 ml doses. That is when they want to inject somebody. The nurse or doctor will take 0.5 ml dose of the vaccine and inject on the left upper arm. Now, some of these vaccines come in up to like 11 or 12 doses. That is maybe a little more than 5 ml that we're seeing here. It is also being accounted for. How do vaccines work? COVID-19 vaccines help our bodies develop immunity to the COVID-19 virus without us having illness. There are different types, and they work in different ways to protect the body. The human body protects itself from germs through the immune system using several tools. We have macrophages, B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes. Some of us who are science-based or biology-based or physiology-based will understand this. And these tools, they are like the body's defense system. Many of them are activated at different points in time. They help the body fight any war, any disease that wants to come. So this mechanism is what is leveraged upon by vaccine development or vaccine use. So if a first timer gets infected with COVID-19 virus, it will take several days or weeks for the body to make and use those germ-fighting foods that I mentioned earlier on for them to be activated. So after the infection, the person's immune system would now remember what they have learned about how to protect the body against these diseases. With COVID-19 vaccination, what we are doing is to sensitize the body that, come look, some things may come later that start fighting you, but now we have come to sensitize you. So after that, the body's immune system will start, producing T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes against future occurrence of something that feels or looks or sounds like that vaccine that the individual has received. So this is a key process building immunity for the COVID-19 disease, so that when the COVID infection now comes, the body was already prepared and it can now fight that infection seriously. So what are the types of vaccines? We have four main types, and the four main types are the whole virus vaccine, which is the Sinovac or Sinopharm vaccines. This whole virus vaccine uses a weakened or deactivated COVID virus to trigger or protect the immunity, while we have the RNA or the mRNA vaccine. The COVID-19 RNA vaccine consists of mRNA molecules, which are for both parts of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, specifically the virus species. The example of this is the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines, which are being used in the UK and the US. And we have the non-replicating viral vector, which an example of that is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine that we are using here in Nigeria. So this type of vaccine introduces a genetically engineered vaccine. This was produced in the cutting-edge scientific innovation. The virus was genetically engineered, and it's designed to mimic the COVID-19 virus, only that it's not a live virus and it won't cause disease. So when it comes into the body, it produces proteins that stimulates the proteins, and then the proteins will in turn stimulate the immune system to start mounting defenses against the real virus when the real virus eventually comes into the body. And we have the protein subunit vaccines, which are harmless proteins of the virus that cause COVID or the entire gen. So once vaccinated, our immune system recognizes these proteins that do not belong to the body. And the T lymphocytes and then the other antibodies will start showing their faces and then to protect against the vaccine. So this is a chart of some of these vaccines. We have the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which I said is a viral vector. An individual is expected to take 2 doses about 4 weeks apart. And then it is stored between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, while the Moderna vaccine, which is an RNA vaccine, also you take 2 doses, and this one is stored between -25 to -15 degrees Celsius. This requires an ultra-sensitive and ultra-cold equipment to store, and you and I will agree with that. We don't have this kind of facility in Nigeria, and even when we do have this kind of facility in Nigeria, the power to to maintain that kind of cold chain may be elusive to us. So then we have the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, which is the RNA vaccine. 2 shots as well. Now this one, minus 80 degrees to minus 60 degrees Celsius. Now this temperature is a storage temperature that the vaccines require to be stored for them to remain potent. So anything outside this temperature, the vaccine can get damaged. And once the vaccine gets damaged, it's not going to be potent. And it's not going to do the work it ought to do. And then we have the gamma layer, which is viral vector, 2 doses as well, stored at minus 18.5 degrees Celsius. And then we have the Sinovac, which is an inactivated virus. An inactivated virus is a weak virus, just like the polio vaccines. A weak virus, and then 2 doses as well. Now this one is stored from 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Now this is our normal refrigerator temperature or freezer temperature. Is 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Then we have the Novavax vaccine, which is a protein-based vaccine. 2 doses as well, stored at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Then the Janssen vaccine, which is a viral vector vaccine, it's 1 shot. This is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the popular Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And that one is also stored at minus 2 to plus 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Now, those ones who are stored at plus 2 to 8 degrees Celsius are, compatible with our situation in Nigeria. So if you get any one of them, we should be able to manage them well. So these vaccines are safe and effective, contrary to popular propaganda going on. And then currently over 40 million COVID-19 vaccine doses have been administered. In fact, this particular line was stated several weeks ago. Right now, over 500 million doses of vaccines have been administered all over the world. And these vaccines have been evaluated in tens of thousands of participants. Now, you would remember that I mentioned earlier on that the COVID vaccine was a clinical trial, the first 3 clinical trial, which is basically the last stage of the vaccine trial, used about 34,000 participants. These participants are those that were given the vaccines to see what the effect of the vaccine would be on them. And then they came out well, and scientists were able to draw their inference on this particular clinical trial. The intense vaccine safety monitoring systems have also been established to ensure that these vaccines are safe. Like I said earlier on, NAFDAC, Nigeria, and the Standard Organization of Nigeria also did their own due diligence on these vaccines when it came to Nigeria. Now, let's look at some statistics. Some of the samples tested so far as at April 20th in Nigeria, 1.8 million, a little over 1.8 million. Now, if you juxtapose that 1.8 million to about 200,000 million people in Nigeria, you will see that we haven't done enough in that. That's barely 1% of our population that we have tested. And that's because the resources to carry out these tests are very expensive and elusive. Government may not be able to actually be able to provide that for everybody. And then we have confirmed cases in the surplus of 164,000 all over the country. And then number of deaths in Nigeria to about 2,061 in the other rest that shows. The number of vaccine doses received, 3.94 million. Ignore this is 3.94 million doses. Now, in Lagos, we received about 507,000 doses of the vaccines. And in that first phase, I believe somebody is going to talk to you about the phases and the eligibility. So I'm not taking the pain to talk about that. So in that first phase, we vaccinated about 257,756 people. Now, these 257,000 people are going to take their second dose The second dose is in May. So sometime in May, we're going to use the remainder of these 507,000 vaccines to vaccinate these individuals that take their first shots so that their immunity can be completed. Total number of people vaccinated in Nigeria as at yesterday was 1.148 million all over the country. So we have vaccinated upward of 1.1 million in Nigeria. So what are the pros of these vaccines? What are the positives to take from these vaccines? COVID-19 vaccine prevents moderate to severe forms of COVID-19. And then when the vaccine is introduced into the body, like I said earlier on, it triggers the body to produce antibodies, which will now boost the immune system against infection. And the vaccine prevents COVID-19 infection from turning into a disease. Now, the vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID-19. When you take the vaccines and get COVID-19, what you're going to get is maybe most likely asymptomatic COVID-19 infection. But because you have taken the vaccine, this will prevent that infection from turning into a disease. That is, it will prevent that infection from turning into a serious problem. And then it also prevents that COVID-19 from killing or causing death in the individual. Now, the European Medical Agency stated that there is no evidence which supports the restriction of the vaccine use in any population. The WHO also strongly recommends that the continued use of the AstraZeneca vaccine. They said the benefit outweighs the risk. I actually talked about this on TV so many times. And according to Dr. Fraser Ashwai, the Executive Secretary of the MPACDA, the MPACDA is the Nigerian Primary Healthcare Development Agency, he said we have a well-guarded and strictly compliant system to ensure that no unauthorized or counterfeit process is introduced from foreign countries. Now, this is essential because individuals can make the counterfeit of this vaccine. They can import the counterfeit of this vaccine and start jabbing people all over the place. And then when you have the counterfeit, that is when people may report that the vaccine is not working. Now, because we don't want that situation to happen, government has put in place some measures to control that. And I can assure you categorically that we don't have the fake of this vaccine circulating in Nigeria. Now, even if you do have the fake of this vaccine circulating in Nigeria, you are not going to get that fake, because if you follow the protocol that's been, earmarked by the NPACDA, because these vaccines are only given in government-approved primary health centers and some general hospitals. You are not going to find this vaccine at a private hospital, except it is expressly, approved or stated by the government. So this can help guard against people, marketing, selling, or jabbing people with fake vaccines. So those who have cancer, renal disease, heart disease, liver disease, and what have you, are at increased benefits of taking these vaccines. So if you have employees who have any of these, like cancer, diabetes mellitus, renal disease, they will do well to take the vaccine, because it will protect them from having serious and debilitating illness from COVID-19. You and I already know that those who have these comorbidities like cancer, renal disease, heart disease, and all that, these are the people who die mostly from COVID-19. So once you take the vaccine, the chances of dying from that is very, very reduced. So, and then so far, nobody has died from the vaccine administration. At least it's not proven yet anyone has died from the vaccine administration. Professor Oyetomori, who is a foremost virologist in Nigeria, say that it is a stage that all of us should get to, because it is for everyone. And the more all of us get to it, the better chances for all of us to go back to our normal lives. I'm going to explain that much later on. The evidence for us is that over 400 million people have been vaccinated, and how many of them have died or had side effects This is according to the words of Professor Oyetomori, a foremost virologist. And what are the cons of this COVID-19? Of this virus, excuse me a second. The side effects of the vaccine may include pain at the injection site, body pains, fever, nausea, headache, and malaise. Malaise is a general feeling of unwell. And the others may include vomiting, diarrhea, dizziness, and allergic reactions. Now, there were 52 cases of moderate to severe adverse events following immunization, and about 8,439 mild adverse events following immunization were reported. Now, these 8,439 complaints are complaints that were gotten from people who took the vaccine. That is, people who complained of body pain, then pain at injection site, people who complained of headache, and some people even complained that after taking the vaccine, they were eating a lot. So those complaints amounted to about 8,439. And then a report says that up to 4 to 5 people out of 1 million people who received the vaccine may develop some blood clotting after taking the AstraZeneca vaccine. And this is even worse with the Johnson Johnson vaccine. Now, this is so because when they did clinical trial, they did a clinical trial in about 34,000 people, less than 40,000 people. So this blood clotting was not detected because it's a very, very rare side effect. Now, when individuals who are up to 1 million take the vaccine, it is reported that you can find a few people between 4 and 5 and 6 who may have some form of blood clotting or the other. Now, the caveat is that without taking the vaccine, out of 1 million people, there is a more increased risk of people having blood clotting. What I'm trying to say is that if you put 1 million people down, at least 20 of them will have blood clotting, even without taking COVID-19 vaccine. So, like I said earlier on, the risk does not measure with the benefits, because the benefits outweighs the risk of taking the vaccine. So, what are the rumors that are going around? Some people say COVID-19 alters the DNA, but it is not true, because when the vaccine enters the cells, it does not enter the nucleus. It only enters the cells, and the nucleus is where the DNA is. So when the vaccine enters the cells, it causes the cells to make the protein to stimulate the immune system, and then the vaccine breaks down almost immediately after that. There's another rumor that the vaccine can lead to long-term effects. No, the reported side effects are short-term, and they disappear. They occur over a couple of days and they disappear. I can guarantee you this because I manage people who came down with these side effects, and I can tell you before I even call them back, that's how are you doing? The side effect already disappeared. They tell me, oh doc, I feel better now. So there's another rumor that the vaccine contains controversial substances like microchips, fetal tissues, implant, and all that. No, that's not true. It's not possible for medical or health workers to inject people with something that contains impurities, that contains chips, that contains things that will not help them. Because we swore an oath, and then we swore an oath to do no harm. So it is not true that the vaccine contains all that. There's also a rumor that the vaccine was developed to kill Africans. Well, this is laughable because this vaccine was not made in Africa. It was not even made for Africans. It was made in India, and for the whole world to use. The same vaccine we are using here is what they are using in so many other parts of Europe and America. So I talked about all these.
Sorry, Dr. Japhet, I'm afraid we're out of time. So if you can just maybe give us a last one in 1 minute, and then we can just take questions, a couple of questions already.
Rounding up. So just in a few moments, I'm running out. So what is the current workplace scenario? At your workplace now, some other workplaces, you have workers having to wear face masks to enter. Workers have to subject themselves to temperature checks for entry. They have to use hand sanitizer, hand washing, use of separate desks. They have to sanitize the offices after each day work. They have to use face masks during presentations, meetings, private talks. You can't even know the expression on your colleague's face because they're wearing face masks all the time. And then when somebody coughs or sneezes, it's a big issue because when the person coughs first, all of you will be looking at the person. If the person coughs the second time or sneezes the second time, you are going to have to stay with that person, whether consciously or consciously. So that's some form of stigmatization. And then there's a restriction of idle talks in the office. If you look at this slide, it's showing that people can get the virus by sneezing, by coughing, by touching telephones, by touching desks, by making phone calls, by touching door handles. This is a common occurrence in an office environment. And then if you look at this one, these are the symptoms. They are all used to these symptoms right now. But then again, almost everybody has this kind of symptoms every different point in time. So that means with COVID, our lives have been put in some form of disbalance, so imbalance. So what can help us? You see, these are the preventive ways that all companies try to, adopt. And then you can see, you can't even sit down with your friends, you can't even sit down with people, you can't even sneak a peek view on people's phones or use the same phone together at the same time and all that. So, well, the target to achieve herd immunity in Nigeria is about 70%. That is, when we give the vaccine to people, to up to 70% of the people or 60% of the people, we have achieved what they call herd immunity. And that herd immunity is a point at which nobody can infect another person. I will repeat that again. Herd immunity is a point at which one person who has the virus cannot infect another person because we are all immune to it. The majority of the population is now immune to it. So that is what we are targeting by giving the vaccine. So what will happen when you take the vaccine, when 70% of people take the vaccine? We can return to our normal lives. We can stop wearing face masks. We can stop maintaining social distancing. And then we can, do everything we want to do at work.
Thank you so much, Dr. Japhet. Can we still hear him?
No, we can't.
Okay,
No,
Dr. Japhet, it appears we lost you there.
We are again. We can't hear him again.
Yeah, let's just give a couple minutes so maybe he can dial back in. So we had a network issue. Please, can we unmute Dr. Japhet if we have? No, he's off mute. So. Okay. Dr. Japhet, okay, we can see you now. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, we lost you for a moment. So thank you for the presentation. I hope you can still hear us. So thank you for the presentation. Very insightful. We do have a couple of questions, and I will take some of them that have been sent already. But for the audience, please feel free to send in more questions into the chat box so that we can take that. So Dr. Japhet, from where you sit, based on this presentation that you have shared with us this evening, what role do you think HR plays in this, as leading the people front, in the organization? What role do you think we play as HR in terms of COVID vaccinations and ensuring that the organization is in a safe space? What do you think our role is as HR?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. The HR, it's an important personnel in the organization. And then the role of the HR is to ensure that every employee at the organization takes the vaccine. And they can do this by advising the management to make provisions for employees or give room for employees to take the vaccines. They can also ensure that they create some form of timetable for employees to go to the nearest health centers to take their vaccination. So essentially, the HR officers, HR managers have a very important task in ensuring that their employees take the vaccines.
Okay, thank you for that one. I think one last one, because in the interest of time, maybe we'll send other questions to you and then maybe you can help us respond and we can share with the community. But one last question will be, is there provision, for HR managers to actually reach out to the state to say, okay, we would like our employees to be vaccinated? Do you do does the state do those kinds of arrangements? So providing vaccines for organizations separately instead of going to the health centers?
No, there's no arrangement like that, but it can be made. Once we are in a phase where those employees are, they are eligible to take the vaccines, we can provide phone numbers of the medical officers of health closest to that facility, to that company, and then they can make arrangements for their employees to take the vaccines. For instance, during that first phase, some HR managers called me, those who are my friends, who are within the territory of the local government where I provide services. They reached out to me and I asked them to send their officers who were eligible, who qualified in that phase, and then we vaccinated them, quite a number of them, so the arrangements can be made.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Japhet, for your time this evening. We do appreciate you coming over. We will send you questions or any other clarifications people have, and then if you can just please respond, and then we can share that with the community. Thank you so much for your time this evening. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, then. So we're moving on to the next presentation. So over to you, Nonso.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Devesha. I'm taking over from Nonso. How are we doing tonight? Thank you, Dr. Japhet, for that lovely session. So I'll be introducing our next speaker. His name is Dr. Tunde Ajayi, and he'll be taking us through public trust in vaccine compliance. So Dr. Babatunde Ajayi is a global health consultant with 7 years experience in global health, health policy, and occupational health. He is a Lagos-trained medical doctor, an Erasmus Plus public health fellow from UCL, an MBA graduate from Warwick Business School, and also presently on a PhD in public health at EU CLID. He is currently appointed the Special Assistant on Health to the Governor of Lagos and works with the Honorable Commissioner for Health on delivering sustainable health policies and projects to the people of Lagos. Dr. Tunde is a results-oriented and adventurous man, known for adding value to systems and organizations with the unassailable vision of making revolutionary global impact. So would all agree with me when I say that Dr. Ajayi is the best person to take us through this next session, where he'll be talking about public trust on vaccine compliance. Okay, Dr. Ajayi, over to you.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Tunde Ajayi. I'll quickly run through a few slides where we'll be talking about vaccine compliance. And I'll just give a very quick background, and there's a reason I'm using this particular picture, for the background. Well, I should first of all confirm that everyone can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
So a quick reminder, you have 25 minutes for the session, and then we'll go to question and answer.
Okay, don't worry, I won't take that much time. Okay. So speaking about public trust in vaccine compliance, I first of all would like to leverage what my brother has said, Japhet. He's done a very great job, extensively dissecting the subject of COVID-19 vaccination in Lagos and indeed globally. And I would say that very importantly, it's not negotiable that you win the trust of the people and make them comply, because at the end of the day, vaccination is supposed to be a willing exercise, supposed to be a voluntary exercise. You cannot exactly flog people who do not want to get vaccinated. So the process of getting public trust and ensuring vaccine compliance depends greatly on our actions and inactions as HR professionals, particularly for those in the workplace. Coming from the public sector, I can tell you that not everyone in a hospital even wants to get vaccinated. I'm not sure you're surprised, but people feed on different kinds of information from all over the place. So the most dominant information you have would definitely be the one you've been exposed to the most. And that's what forms or shapes your trust or your choices. So yes, this particular picture is symbolic because for Lagos, we had to win people's trust by ensuring that the number one man takes the vaccine. That step alone would instill confidence in a lot of people. Just a bit of background. With the advent of COVID in Lagos, obviously there's a hope of ending the pandemic. And at the end of the day, the entire goal is to make sure that you have herd immunity, as Dr. Japhet had described. And herd immunity would mean that you vaccinate up to 70 to 80% of your population. If you have that figure, then you're almost certain that you don't have COVID being shared from one person or spread from one person to the other. Quick data. Surprisingly, for most of you, for a lot of people, we've done quite a lot of research in Lagos about COVID, in Nigeria about COVID. Pardon my mix-up of Lagos and Nigeria. Lagos is where we all are, or where most of us are. So, yeah. So from a study done in Nigeria in 2020, mostly in Edo State, about 81% of people knew that vaccines protect individuals against diseases. Well, the study population is quite representative, so you can tell that, and then speaking of vaccines are vast. I mean, you've been getting vaccines since you were born. So if you have exposed 90 to 100% of your people to that entire process, and 81 of them still, or 19% of them do not believe that vaccines protects individuals against diseases, then you know that there's a significant amount of people who you need to work on. 78.3% knew that vaccines strengthen the immune system. 9% knew vaccines stop the spread of diseases. 81% are aware of the development of COVID-19 vaccine. And expectedly, the main source of COVID-19 related information is through social media. So that's it tells you that a lot of us depend on social media for information on many things. The factors affecting acceptance, knowledge, like I said earlier, 86%, that's quite a significant amount. So knowing that a vaccine can prevent you from getting COVID subsequently or right after you've gotten it, it's significant enough information to know. Beliefs, there are some religious beliefs that do not allow people to take vaccines. There are many families or many people who are so grounded in some religious beliefs and they do not take vaccines in those places. Without particular mention of areas, I'm sure some of us may be in doubt that happens in Nigeria, but trust me, there are places in Nigeria, not too far from where you live, where the man or the head of the home would not allow anybody in his household get vaccines. So misconceptions, beliefs, religious beliefs are also important. I was trying to get the picture of the part where one of the religious leaders somewhere in Nigeria was taking the vaccine, but I couldn't lay my hands on that photo. But it shows the significance of vaccinating, or the symbolism of vaccinating the leaders, because a lot of people just follow blindly. Religious leaders are very, they lead opinions, and we need to acknowledge that fact. So according to the study I earlier mentioned, the reason people do not want to get vaccines in Nigeria, or those that are refusing the vaccines, there are reasons. One of them says, well, a lot of them, 71% of them think that the side effects are significant for them. Well, while I'm sure a lot of us here have been vaccinated, while you cannot completely dispute that the side effects are significant, it is a valid reason. I mean, absolutely valid. The side effects are quite a bit. I had side effects when I got mine, felt sick for a bit. On the other hand, can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I just need to be sure. So a lot of people are concerned about the side effects, and those people who have refused vaccination are doing it on the basis of side effects. So if I got vaccinated and I get home and tell my wife that, I have been vaccinated and I have all of these symptoms, she probably would not want to get it. So that fear is a thing. 62% of them say that they might get an infection from the vaccine, which is a misconception. 51% think that it may not be effective. Rightly so. I mean, a lot of the time you need to explore the reason they are thinking these things and then try to allay their fears. Some people think that the outbreak is not serious in Nigeria. Being a frontline health worker, or being at the forefront of COVID, the COVID war in Lagos, I can tell you for a fact that Lagos was hit, or Nigeria was hit, that you do not see the numbers as grave as you see in Brazil or as you see in the US. Well, there's a God factor to it.
After taking
so some people, for the fear of needles, just for the fear of needles, do not like to take vaccines. About 42% of them have said they won't take vaccines because they are scared of the needles. I know quite a number of them as well. So essentially, I think that it is very important that we emphasize that vaccines are absolutely important. They are absolutely necessary to curb the COVID-19 spread in Nigeria. We have not attained the herd immunity yet. By the end of our second dose in Lagos, for instance, we would have vaccinated 250,000 people. 250,000 people is about 1% of the population in Lagos, and 1% doesn't go near the herd immunity. So definitely would definitely get more vaccines. For me, the key point here is to make sure that we are all prepared for the time when we're eligible to get vaccinated. It's going to come soon. And then when it's your turn to get vaccinated, you absolutely should go for it. All of the reasons that you have are not valid. You can ask questions. You are definitely not going to get an infection from the vaccine. The vaccine is effective. It has been tested. The outbreak in Nigeria was serious. If you are lucky that none of your relatives got really down or died from the first and the second waves, then you absolutely should thank God for it. If you don't like needles, like half of the people in the world, I'm not sure there are many people who like needles anyway, but if half of the people on earth say they don't like needles, then it's a valid concern. However, sometimes you need to take needles to save your life. So if you have to jump down a story building to save your life, you will. If there's a fire, despite the fact that it's inconvenient and uncomfortable. So I make bold to say that this move by the HR team is an audacious one. I think that it would spur compliance in our workplaces, we'll be better informed, and then we're able to encourage more people to get the vaccines so that together we can, at the end of the day, attain good vaccine coverage and herd immunity in our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ajayi, for this insightful session. It's been, revealing listening to you. And I'm sure a lot of us have taken away a lot from your presentation. So just go straight to the question and answer session. I have a couple of questions already in the chat box. So I'll just read them out to you and you take them. And to all the other participants, please feel free to still drop your questions. And if you want to speak or you want to ask your question directly, please go ahead. But let me read the first question in the chat box for you, Dr. Ajayi. Okay, so Dr. Ajayi, somebody is asking that what is the eligibility criteria to take the vaccine?
All right, so the eligibility criteria, because for the first phase, we had limited volume. So we had to categorize people into 3-4 batches. So for the first batch, we had to vaccinate people above 65, above 70. We had to vaccinate oil and gas workers, health workers. We had to vaccinate some people that work in media, journalists. We also had to vaccinate generally people that were exposed to more, like people that were on the front line, who were more exposed to the virus, as it were, who had a higher chance of getting the virus. So that was the criteria for the first batch. The second batch would most likely, there's a list for it. If I find it, I'll post it in the group chat before the end of this meeting. But then that was the first batch criteria. The second batch would be those between maybe 50 and 70. And then some of us will fall into that category. And then maybe the third one would be if you are, between 30 and 50, as it were. So the higher your risk level, the earlier you would get your vaccine.
All right. Thank you. Someone else is asking if the vaccine can be taken by a patient recovering from stroke.
Yes, correct. The vaccine can be taken by a patient recovering from stroke. I think that what Dr. Japhet had tried to do with explaining the embolus thing, which is mostly the fear of people asking that question, is that during the test, during the administration in some parts of the world, some people had an embolus or they had blood clots. But the question you would ask is, if you had not given the vaccine, would you still have had that number of people have blood clots? The answer is yes. There are more people who would have had blood clots even without receiving the vaccine than, like, if you have a hospital or a general hospital, for instance, the incidence of blood clot patients presenting at your emergency was higher, without the vaccine than with the vaccine. So the vaccine was established as not being the direct cause of the blood clot. So yes, if you are recovering from a stroke, you absolutely should get the vaccine.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ajayi. So a lot of people still doubt the potency of the vaccine, maybe because of the peculiarity of a society. So I have a question here. Someone is asking, how safe is COVID-19 vaccine on a scale of 1 to 10? And he's saying, if it is 100% safe, why do we have the indemnity clause to sign before taking it?
So this is it. The vaccine is very safe. And I think we need to increase, we need to believe more in processes and things that are proposed by the government. I'm saying this, well, you can say because I work with government, but the government of Nigeria did not produce the vaccine. This vaccine was produced in India. It was discovered, or it was found in the UK. Now, if you are sharing something or if you are giving something across the entire world, there's a whole European Medical Association. Even the vaccines that came into Nigeria were first tested at NAFDAC and confirmed to be safe. Just like the paracetamol you take every day has been tested at NAFDAC before, you know, they allowed it into circulation in public. So I would absolutely think, and I can say that the vaccines are safe. As regards the indemnity clause, even when you're, I mean, there's always that legal thing with everything you're doing. It is actually the legal backing for getting the medicine, I mean, for getting a drug. If you're in a hospital, you are going for surgery. The fact that you're going to sign consent for the surgery doesn't mean that the doctor will not be careful, or doesn't mean that the procedure would not have been deemed safe. There are safety standards, and it's global. Anywhere you're having a surgery in the world, the best surgeons who is sure of 100% success of, say, a breast lump removal or a herniorrhaphy, will still have you sign a document that if this goes left, because there are risks to surgeries, I will not be held liable. So there's that tiny print that has to come after every document for legal reasons. So the vaccines are safe.
Okay, thank you for providing, shedding more light on the bits of indemnity. Okay, so I have those comments posted on the chat that I would like to read out. And it says, thank you, doctor, for this insightful session. The person is saying, sorry, please mute if you're not speaking. Thank you. So the person is saying, management has instructed, I guess it is where he or she works. Management has instructed that I prepare a mandatory memo asking, hold on, please. Okay, asking all staff to get vaccinated. Staff who fail to comply with work from home with 1/3 of salaries deducted for the first 3 months, after which higher sanction may apply. I have advised this is not a good move at this time, considering the number of available centers and eligibility in Lagos and employees' rights and other personal reasons from staff. Please advise on how to go about this. I'm of the opinion that it should be encouraged and not mandatory. So I guess the person is saying that where he works, they are trying to make it mandatory for everybody to take the vaccine. And if you do not take the vaccine, there'll be some punitive measure. So he's asking that, how should he go about it, being an HR person? So what's your advice to this HR person?
Well, so again, I think this comes down to the sector this person works. I know for people in oil and gas, they absolutely need to get the vaccine, because if you go offshore, if you go on an oil rig, for instance, and you get other people infected, they would have to shut down operations. Some of those oil rigs run on about $500,000 daily. So it's going to cost them a lot of money, you know. So that sector, for instance, I am sure, I'm confident, I've had to intervene on some days, that if you don't get the vaccine, you will get sacked. They will lose their jobs. And this is not from hearsay. This is something I know, and I have seen it happen to people. A particular firm had about 40 drivers, told them to come get vaccinated. Only 32 of them showed up. The others said they were not convinced they wanted it. And those 8 were told to sit at home till they were ready to come back to work. So if your sector is particularly dependent on getting vaccines or on your safety, the sectors where safety is top priority, they absolutely reserve the right to mandate you to get it. Otherwise, you would affect their business. And there's a choice. You can actually stay at home. However, for other people who are currently not eligible for the vaccine, their sector is not eligible for the vaccine, and the company is not making provision for, if the company is not making provision for you to get vaccine, then how would they expect you to get it? In that case, they can advise, they can sort of encourage you to get the vaccines, but they can't mandate you because you are not even eligible in the first place, unless they are making arrangements for you. So that's my take. That's what I think.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So I have this question. Someone is saying that they've been to some health centers where people were turned back, you know, that the vaccines are not available. So she's asking if the vaccines are still available.
So the vaccines are currently, the first batch or the first phase, we've given half of the doses, and the time for it is, so we're supposed to give 250,000 out of the 500,000 we got from federal government, like Dr. Japhet had said, we have currently hit 257,000. So if we continue giving now, it means that when you are supposed to get a second dose, they will tell you that, we've exhausted vaccines. So it's important that we understand why we had to stop, why Lagos had to stop vaccinations for now. So if you wait a bit, I'm sure federal government is making arrangements for more vaccines. The goal from the Federal Ministry of Health is that we would vaccinate 90%, 80 to 90% of our population over the next 2 years. So if you wait for it, you get to your turn. Just hold on, just hang on.
Thank you, Dr. Ajayi. So I have this other question. Someone wants to have a better understanding of how the vaccination exercise can be implemented, maybe at their own place of work. How do they go about implementing it?
Implementing would mean getting their staff vaccinated.
Yes, please.
So if you want to get your staff vaccinated, then Dr. Japhet are the custodians of vaccines in Lagos. And every local government has medical officers of health who are technically the ministers of health in that local government. So just walk up to your MOH. If you're eligible, he's going to make an arrangement for you. And then you and your team would get vaccinated. Like he had said earlier, that if you're eligible, he can definitely make an arrangement for you. So if you have people in your office, the security guards and all of those people, or top management staff who are above the age of, who are within the bracket of eligibility, can easily make an arrangement and let them go there on a day that has been agreed with the medical officer of health. Dr. Japhet has also promised to share the numbers of his colleagues, so you can reach out to them. They would make a quick, fast arrangement for you, and you give God all the glory.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ajayi. So I'm looking at the chat, box, and I can't see any more questions. Or do we have any more questions for Dr. Ajayi tonight? Any more questions?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
good evening, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, I'm an HR professional in Ogun State. Yeah, you've mentioned about Lagos State, how we can arrange for vaccination of employees in Lagos State. So is there any advice that you can give for Ogun State?
So I think once you cross Beggar Bridge, you can easily, get eligible again. So this is it. Lagos has reached the mark. That is why we're not vaccinating. I think Ogun has not reached the mark. They still have vaccines available. So if you speak with the medical officer of health in your locality, you definitely can get an arrangement to get vaccinated. And the acceptance is higher in Lagos, basically because of industry and because a lot more people are aware. The kind of drive we put into publicity and public health information is quite huge. So more people want it in Lagos than most places. So if you go to Ogun State, if you try to reach the medical officer of health in your locality, like I said earlier, they're basically the ministers of health in your local government. Go to the local government office, ask for the MOH's number. They definitely will volunteer to you. And then you can make an arrangement with him. He's going to make it available for you.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. It's clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Jane, you have your hand up. Please, can you ask your question?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening,
everyone.
Good evening.
Yep. Thank you, Doctor. I can't remember the name now. Thank you for all the information shared. Very helpful.
Dr. Ajayi.
Dr. Ajayi, yes, please. Thank you very much for the information shared. Now, for some young people, the concern has been, will this vaccine cause infertility in any way? There are several stories all over social media. Can you just probably elaborate a little bit more on it?
Right. So from research and from the academia, well, I'm sure Dr. Opawoye is coming up in a minute. He's in academia and he will tell you that there is really no data that says that it will cause infertility. I'm not sure that anybody would want to wipe out the world with a vaccine. So there are easier ways to do that, not with a vaccine. And I'm sure that it has been tested. And even the concern about pregnant women being ineligible for it was born out of concerns like this. So I think that it doesn't cause infertility. from everything we have read from the literature and all of the research available to us, the vaccine does not cause infertility. If it did, I wouldn't have taken it. Trust me.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, doctor. Someone wants to know if a pregnant woman can take the vaccine.
Well, a pregnant woman is not eligible to take the vaccine. Just wait till you have your baby and you're out of that period, then you can take it.
All right, thank you, doctor. Do we have any more questions, before we call on the next speaker? Any more questions for Dr. Ajayi? Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Ajayi. We don't have any more questions for you. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Maybe back to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ajayi, for answering the call and for coming to make this extremely wonderful presentation and for giving us more clarity on the COVID-19 vaccines and what we should expect in the coming months from the government. We're moving on to the next presenter now, Dr. Adefolarin Opawoye. I'm very delighted also to welcome him onto this platform. Dr. Adefolarin Opawoye is a senior registrar in infectious disease at the Infectious Disease Unit, Lagos University Teaching Hospital. He's also the PRO of the Nigerian Infectious Disease Society. He has extensive experience in outbreak response, having been part of Ebola, Lassa, and yellow fever responses in Lagos State. He is the Infection Prevention and Control Team Lead in Lagos, COVID-19 response, and his remit is to teach and promote non-pharmacological interventions in all sectors of the society, set up and monitor isolation centers, amongst others. To this end, he has trained thousands of individuals across various strata, such as healthcare workers, oil and gas, airline, hospitality, schools, and so on and so forth. He has also managed hundreds of COVID-19 patients in various isolation centers. He has the unique overview of being a first responder and a policymaker. He's married to a lawyer and he has 2 wonderful children. We're happy to welcome you on board.
Oh, thank you very much.
I would be so glad if Dr. Ajayi could please stop sharing his slides so that, Dr. Ajayi, could you please stop sharing your slides? Dr. Ajayi, could you stop sharing your slides? Dr. Ajayi, could you stop sharing your slides? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So it's wonderful to have you on board. I have been looking forward to this session because it's a no holds barred question and answer session when we're just going to ask you, we're going to ask you anything, all right, that comes to our minds. A lot of questions have been, asked, and we're going to start by asking you some of those questions, and we hope that you'll be able to treat those questions with the openness and the frankness that you are very well known for, sir. So I'm going to start with the first question. I mean, this is all about this topic that we're going to treat. It's all about Christian on the COVID-19 vaccine, because we've heard from the representatives of the Lagos State government. We've heard from one of the senior medical health officers who is helping to dispense these vaccines. We now want to bring some balance to this whole thing. We're getting a lot of questions from the Christian community, a lot of people who are skeptical about whether as Christians we should be taking these vaccines or we should not be taking these vaccines. So first of all, Dr. Adefolarin, I want to find out, what is this relationship between Christianity and vaccinations? I mean, it's a medical thing, for goodness sake. So what does Christianity have to do with vaccinations?
Oh, thank you very much, Ima. I want to start by first offering my heart for this wonderful community group. It's really exciting to be here. I had to remark yesterday on your wonderful organization and your commitment and everything. I mean, this is just really great. I'm sure Pastor is so proud of the great work you're doing here. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. I also want to doff my hat to my colleagues that have gone ahead, colleagues and friends, Japhet and Tunde. So today, I don't know if he's still here, but just expect me in your house this weekend, maybe well, I take some issue. These are people who we've worked together over COVID for a very long time. And when I saw the lineup of speakers, I knew these were people who had done their homework. You guys have really done your homework because some of us have been on the front. We have been in the front of the front lines. Today's been with the government. Coordinating activities. Japhet is the union man. Raising strikes and making sure that the rights of healthcare workers are protected. And well, I'm like Tunde said, I'm an academician. My own remit is to take care of patients and develop guidelines and make sure that what they are doing abroad, we can adapt it to our environment. So that being said, let's talk about Christians and vaccines. So generally, there's been a lot of issues with Christians and vaccines, and not just COVID. That's the truth. He was a pastor, and we're like, your wife will need CS. And he said, God forbid, my wife will not do CS. I would deliver her myself. I will pray and then she will deliver. And then I recall one of my friends called him and said, sir, show me your CV of how many people you have prayed for. And when you prayed for them, the doctors had told them they would not deliver by themselves, and they delivered. Let us see your track record. Because if you are not doing that, then what you are doing is just to use this woman to play experiment. And then at the end of the day, she will die. And then when she dies, you go on and marry another person, and that one is gone. So when it comes to Christianity and taking health interventions like vaccines, like medications and all that, I think a lot of wisdom is needed. The major issue with vaccines, like I've said, is the issue that many of them were derived from fetal cell lines, but these were abortions that were done a long time ago. They are not continuing abortions. By taking them, it does not mean you are supporting abortions. So I do not see any reason why Christians should not take vaccines. I don't think there's any reason.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adefolarin. I love that story you told about the doctor. And it leads me to my next question. I mean, I'm going to ask this question off the cuff. Where does faith come into this whole thing? So if you have a Christian who says, I want to faith it, all right? And this is also having an impact on the workplace environment, because you have employees who say, well, you know what? Yeah. I believe in God. I believe in my Jesus. And you know what? I'm going to faith this thing. I don't believe I'm going to get COVID-19. I don't have to take a vaccine to stop me from getting COVID-19. So I'm going to faith it. And I'm just going to believe in God and believe in Jesus that, you know what? Jesus is protecting me and his blood is protecting me. So what do you have to say to that?
Thank you very much for that question. Now, basically, you see, I think there's a lot of funny things that people apply faith for. Again, let me tell you another story. When we were in school then, I had this roommate from 100 level to 300 level who were going to night class together. We come together, we go to read together, come back. We wrote exams together as at 100 level when we were in the same faculty before we separated to other faculties. And then at 300 level, we discovered that he was not even a student. And then when he was confronted, he said, oh, he was faithing it. That by coming to the class, by attending lectures, eventually his student status will be confirmed. And that looked absolutely ridiculous. And it was somebody that, in a sense that you are going to recommend it for psychiatric evaluation. And that is how some Christians handle the whole issue of faith. You understand? Because they do some very ridiculous things in the name of faith. And we have seen this a lot. I mean, not just for COVID. Sometimes people don't help. They go to the church to give a testimony, say, praise God. God is faithful. You say, the doctors told me this and that. But despite what the doctor said, God has done it. Hey, doctors are not evil, man. We are trying to work with God too. Luke was a doctor, and one of the trusted followers of Jesus. So the issue with faith is that, yes, faith is strong. I mean, I had done crazy things with COVID. Crazy things. And I had to apply a lot of faith because, at some point I was really worried about my family getting COVID because of the work I do. You understand? And eventually they got it. Okay, I got it too. You understand? I got COVID and one day I checked my saturation was 86. I mean, normal saturation is supposed to be 94.
Wow.
My own saturation went to 86. I said, okay, yeah, this is it. You know, and yeah, there's a strong part of faith in it. But then faith has to be, we have to apply wisdom when we apply faith. We don't apply faith when you don't enter a car with somebody who doesn't know how to drive. You don't enter a plane with somebody who is not a pilot. We don't fit those things. So why do we want to put faith in the part of health? What I tell people is that eventually everything we do, Jesus is there. I mean, I've seen COVID is a very funny disease. I've seen people who were supposed to die, no story, that survived. As the people that we had almost given up on. You understand? And people who were not supposed to die that died. So one of the first things I do when COVID patients come in is, guy, please don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Just calm down. Have faith. Whatever you believe in it. I'm a Christian. I will ask you to believe in my God. I will help you through the process. But please don't be scared. Because, I mean, how else can you explain why we are not dying like chicken in this country? Look at what's going on all over the world. Many of these countries are in lockdowns. Many of them are far stricter than what we did. And yet they have terrible results. Look at India. Look at Brazil. Look at the great US of A. I mean, COVID just shattered the whole bit about US medicine. That look, all of us just the scope of Nigeria, everybody they use. Look at what is going on. They thought that Nigeria will be far worse. And yet we are here, I believe strongly because of God. You understand? That's why we are still here, and many people are not dead. Many more people than we would have thought. So there's a role of faith, but faith should be applied with wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Opawoye. But we can't escape this issue of faith again, because whether we like it or not, faith is coming into the workplace environment. And it's very clear that there are two classes of employees that are working within the work environment. You heard somebody say it now that there are some people who have refused to take the vaccine. Offices are beginning to tell them that, well, if you don't want to take the vaccine, you stay at home and you work at a certain percentage less, of your salary. So the point is this: how do we as practitioners, I want to be very practical now, how do we as practitioners handle this dichotomy? How do we manage this issue of faith in the workplace environment? How do we spread the word of the vaccine? How do we get employees to take this, without necessarily infringing on their faith?
Thank you very much. Yeah. Now, so
what do you advise?
The thing with COVID is that we have already mandated a lot of things. Now, whether you're a bishop, you are a GO, you are imam, whatever, you're a senior babalawo, if you are traveling out of this country, you must do a COVID test. We don't use faith for that one. If you don't do a COVID test, you are not getting anywhere. I don't care the cash sock you are wearing or whatever. Whether you are doing private jets or you are flying as a witch, whatever it is, you must do your COVID test so long as you pass through the airport. We don't use faith for that. When it came to wearing of masks, there was no faith. No matter who you are, whether you pray for 10 hours in the morning before you leave the house, or you go for sacrifices, where we had mandatory mask mandates, you must wear a mask if you are coming to the workplace. If you don't wear a mask, they say no mask, no entry. They don't classify it and say, no, if you are a pastor, you can enter, because we know your faith is strong. You cannot get COVID. So you see, the reality is that, and that's why, the only reason why we have not had mandatory COVID vaccines is because it's not available. So you are trying to watch yourself as the government, and a lot of the things that Dr. Ajayi today has talked about is the fact that if you don't have something available, you can't force people to take it. Okay? But at the point in which it becomes available, there are subtle ways where they will make sure everybody gets it. So very soon, if you want to travel, if you don't have your green card, you understand, they may say, okay, you are not allowed to travel. I mean, the ethics and the morality of this is being debated hotly all over the world, okay? And even in Europe, a court in Europe just 2-3 days ago laid a ruling that said that, look, sometimes we may have to do mandatory COVID vaccines because some people are just funny. And you can't be waiting for those people to drag everybody behind. For we that we have seen the deleterious effects of COVID, we have seen the deaths of COVID, then we can't allow some 1 or 2 selfish people to drag the rest of us back. So the reality is that in the workplace, right now, it may be premature if you are insisting that people must get COVID vaccines, because where will they get it? But when it becomes widely available, then we may now have to re-strategize, and it may have to become mandatory, regardless of your faith. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Adefolarin. So I want to ask a question. There's no law. I'm a lawyer, all right? I'm a woman who wears many different hats, and my first hat is that of the law, all right? And I'm soon going to hand over to my very good brother here, Mr. Oluyemi Adeosun, whose job is all about employee relations and managing relations of employees in the workplace environment. But I want to know something. There is no law making COVID vaccinations mandatory. Okay. So technically speaking,
but Ima, was there any law that backed the using of masks?
I thought there was one. I thought that the Lagos state government had a law mandated that there's a law. You can't go into certain places, but correct me if I'm wrong, please.
You are the lawyer. I'm a doctor. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all my life. If anybody has the information, maybe they can share. But what I'm just saying is that
I think, sorry, I think what had happened was that there was a law that was passed giving the governor the right to make certain pronouncements about how he wanted things managed concerning COVID-19. So I suppose that would have given him the right to say, it's compulsory for you to wear masks. Because I remember that there was a statement made that it's compulsory for you must wear masks if you're going into certain places. So maybe I'm not updated on that, but the question is this: there seems to be no law mandating that it is compulsory as an employee to take the COVID-19 vaccine. So what should be the approach, all right, of organizations to this? And the reason we ask this is because we are the HR practitioners and we are the ones who are in charge of such policies in the workplace environment. We are the ones who are asked to give advice, all right, to the management about this whole issue. What do we do? What should be the stance of organizations concerning this vaccine vis-a-vis employees? You cannot force employees to take the vaccine, but what should be the approach?
Okay, thank you very much, Ima. And now, you see, so the approach depends on the setting and depends on so many things. Now, this is the problem. We don't have enough vaccines in Nigeria. I mean, Japhet has already told us we brought in about 3.9 million vaccines into the country, 507,000 vaccines to Lagos. You understand? That 3 million vaccines is what the US does on a daily basis to vaccinate their people. Yeah. So the vaccines are not available at this point. It will be extremely unreasonable, understand, and totally tone deaf to go and insist that if people don't get their vaccines, they should not come to work. Because where will they get it? And trust Nigeria, once you do that, boys are going to go and you all of a sudden you see vaccines here and there. Because once there's a market, boys will go in. You don't know the real one, you don't know the fake one. So boys will go in, they start manufacturing all sorts of things once the demand is there. Because when you tell somebody if you don't have the vaccine, you can't come to work, then it becomes a challenge. So at this point, it is totally unnecessary, and that would not be a good move by anybody. I mean, Tunde has told us because of the number of vaccines we have stopped giving people for now because they want people to have their double doses. We are begging for these vaccines. We don't know when the next batch will come. You understand? Because we are getting it from the COVAX facilities. People like France are just pitying us, and you see, every man for himself, God for us all. It's after they have sorted out their people before they will come to us. So we don't know when the next batch of vaccines will come. And then you can't ask people to be traveling. Even if you travel, I have friends, big boys. I mean, they had all the money, private jet, everything. To get vaccine for them outside the country was difficult with all their money. So we don't have the vaccines yet. So you cannot mandate people to get it now. That's the truth. I also agree with you that you have to be careful of forcing people to do things. Because we all know from experience, I mean, we talk about the law and grace in Christianity. The law does not work. The law does not have any benefit. It's just meant to show us grace. But once you start living under the law, under the Abrahamic covenant, then it can become a serious challenge. At the end of the day, your life cannot go forward. So the reality is that I think what I will advise as HR is for those who are eligible. Right now, if even in Lagos we have exceeded our quota, so it's a moot discussion, right? But we can start preparing people for the next phase of when vaccines will come. Start talking to them, addressing their fears. People have fears, legit fears. I mean, a woman that has been trying to give birth and then hearing that the vaccine will cause infertility, what do you expect? It will say, I would rather have COVID than die than to not be able to have children. And these fears, because you go on social media, you see all sorts of evil. WhatsApp, you say this message is from John Hopkins, this and that, and then they start writing all sorts of, not just like Jesus is Lord. What is this? So people have legit reasons to be afraid. I think our job as HR is to educate ourselves. Let's talk to our people. Some people have done surveys in the businesses. I have done surveys. You understand? We did one of my partners, Drasa Niniola. She had a school training, and then we did a survey of the schools, of the teachers, whether they would take the vaccine, whether they will allow the students to take. Some of them said that they will not take. Maybe another person wants to take. That's his problem, because we wanted to know whether you will not take and whether you not allow another person to take. So at this point, you do surveys, prepare the ground, so that when the vaccines come, it will be easier. Yeah. Remember that these vaccines have side effects. I mean, regardless of whatever people say, there have been deaths, especially from the AstraZeneca. April 13, Johnson & Johnson was stopped in the US that we are not using again. And these are vaccines. We can't get Pfizer, we can't get Moderna in Nigeria. So some people are saying, okay, I want to get vaccine. Maybe I say someday original pass another one. I will wait until I can get Pfizer. So I have friends, some of them who are citizens, who will say, look, I'd rather travel and get the Pfizer than get the AstraZeneca that they are giving us that is killing people. So there are risks to this. So, and you don't want to be that person who is just mandated. So the reality is that for now, like I said, the question is moot because we don't have enough vaccines in Nigeria. But when the vaccines come, I think we should prepare the ground, and let people know that these vaccines should be taken so that everybody can return to life as usual as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I have an interesting question here from Stella Tadashe, who would like to find out. She says, if an employer is willing to cover the cost of vaccination for staff, how does the HR manage the situation where some employees insist they don't want to be vaccinated? So, you say, okay, you know what? If you're thinking about the cost of whatever it is, though I hear that it's supposed to be free, what happens if staff say they don't want to get vaccinated?
So this kind of question will cause quarrel, because I don't know this on this call. The question is, what are you paying for a vaccination? It's free.
Yes. Yeah.
So what do you mean by cost? Maybe if the person, and that's Mr. Shola, if you can expatiate on what you mean by cost of vaccination, is it transportation to the site, or you people are paying so that we know to arrest this night? So, I mean, what do you mean by the cost of vaccination? Maybe we should start from there.
Right. Okay. My brother, Oluyemi Adeosun, is waiting to ask you some questions. These have been very wonderful questions, and I have really enjoyed listening. I'm going to come back, but in the meantime, Yemi has some other questions he wants to ask you. And Yemi is our resident employee relations expert. So Oluyemi, are you out there? I'd like to hand over to you. I know you have some questions you would like to ask Dr. Adefolarin.
Thank you so much, Ima, for that session. And thank you, Dr. Adefolarin, for what you have done so far. Let me start from the immediate past question, which is on cost. I would like to say that most likely in the future, there is a possibility that maybe private institutions may be able to bring in vaccine. What Stella is trying to say is that, for example, at such a time, even if there is a cost to the vaccine and the organization is willing to pay for it, or even if the vaccine is free and the organization is insisting on their employees going to take the vaccine, what can the organization do where the employees insist that they don't want to take a vaccine? Can the organization enforce a no vaccine, no work policy?
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So, again, the question is this. It comes back to the fact that if there are vaccines, yes. Now, you are the HR guys. You are the ones that know what works. Is it a carrot or the stick approach? You understand? There are human rights of people. People have legit reasons for not taking. Okay, so for example, now, if somebody is pregnant, now the issue of pregnant women, today I addressed it, so we don't use pregnant people in research because you don't want yawa. You don't want the person to now come and have a baby that is supposed to be in primary 6, is still in primary 1. They say, it's because of the vaccine that they took, that was what caused the problem. So you don't use pregnant women in research. So at the end of the day, when data comes out, you really are not sure what to do about pregnant women because you never tested them. There was no vaccine trial that was done on pregnant women. So if you have a pregnant person in your company, and the person says, okay, I'm not sure about this vaccine, I don't want to take it, what are you going to do? So there are legit reasons sometimes for people not wanting to take vaccines because of one reason or the other. Some of them legit, some of them not too legit. But I think my own advice is that you know what works in your place. And like I said, there are times, if you want to travel now, whether you believe it or not, you must get COVID test. If you don't carry a COVID test, you are not traveling. We have been wearing masks as mandatory. So once we tell people that these things are important and we don't really give so much room for negotiation, and we try to explain the reasons, because you see, that's the problem. If you don't get the vaccine in a place, you are at risk of getting the infection. And this is what people don't realize with COVID. You may get COVID and be fine. And then you go and give it to your mother in the house, and it's your mother that will die. I have seen those kind of cases plenty. That the original person that brought the COVID was okay, and then the other people got it. I had the family, the uncle died, the mother died. The boy that brought the COVID from UK survived. His other brother survived. But how do you recover from that? So I think when it comes to mandating people, I will really bow to your expertise on what works for your organization. However, I think we have to be careful because people have legit reasons for not doing things. People have legit medical reasons for not doing things. So we have to be careful of just taking a one-size-fits-all approach and say, if you don't get COVID, you cannot come to work. I think that's going to be funny. Thank you.
Okay, so if I hear you clearly, you're advocating for context and setting understanding to be able to deploy an appropriate advice.
You see, that's why you're an HR guy. Beautifully put, I mean, I would never have said it like that. Yeah, but that's it.
Okay, so that takes me to the next question. So imagine, let's say you're an organization, say 200 staff. This is hypothetical now, just to provide some clarity. Let's say like half of them have been vaccinated, the other half has been vaccinated. Will it be okay, for example, to say you put people who have been vaccinated to sit together, and then the people who have refused to be vaccinated to sit together, or say the people who have refused to take the vaccine maybe work from home? Will it be okay to do that kind of, so to speak, segregation?
It will be a bit funny, when you start doing that. People will then, I mean, you can try that in Nigeria, try it in the US. The next thing you are racist, discrimination, Black Lives Matter will come for you, they will cancel you, and all sorts of things. So, well, you see, this is a problem all over the world. Nobody really knows how to handle this anti-vaccination. Because, you see, Nigeria, we are good, though. So, with the US, they will never take it. And these people will cause problems. Look at measles, for example. See, everybody, Nigeria generally, especially in the South, we take vaccines. In the North, there's a bit of resistance because of all this infertility thing has been for a long time. The Northerners will not take the oral polio vaccine because somebody has told them that it's a means of population control. And that is why, like Tunde said, you target these religious leaders. So every company, you have your thought leaders in every company. You have to get those people and say, okay, guys, Alpha, what is going on? Why are these people not taking the vaccine? Because once you start these quote unquote discriminatory approaches and say, you stay here, you stay there, I think it will cause more harm than good. So we really have to be very creative in finding solutions to people who will not get vaccinated, and these people would always be there. The hope is that if we can vaccinate close to 80 to 90% of people, then the remaining 10% are not important. They will not cause us too much problems. But by the time you have 10% here, 10% there, you gather them together, a lot of people are not getting vaccinated, then you have not achieved anything. Smallpox is the only disease in history that has been eradicated. In fact, we don't study it anymore. The last case was from an outbreak in the lab in 1978 in the UK. The last patient was in Somalia. We don't have it again because of vaccination. And this vaccination was with gun and koboko because everybody must cooperate for these things to be eradicated. So it's a problem. Asking me this question, I can't solve your problem. You are the HR, I'm a medical person. But I think that you have to be very creative in finding solutions to the difficult people. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for that feedback, Dr. Adefolarin. To recap what you have said in the last few minutes, one, organizations should look for opinion leaders, whether people with formal titles or people who just don't have a title but have influence, and get them on board. So for example, if you are in a unionized environment, you can parley with the union leaders, look for the people who are embracing vaccination so that they can become advocates on behalf of the organization, and also show management staff maybe pictures of them taking the vaccine, just like we have political leaders show themselves take the vaccine to show that it is safe to do that. Okay, so I have a question here that says, if you have a staff boss, okay, and your staff will move in and out of office premises with people who are not vaccinated, that can you restrict staff movement over the weekend too? So I guess this person is asking something along the lines of discrimination or segregation between people who are vaccinated and people who are not vaccinated.
See, so Mr. Adeosho, actually, I would prefer to put vaccinated and non-vaccinated people together, because then the vaccinated people will protect the ones that are not vaccinated. How does vaccination work? Vaccination just means that, now, there's something called the R naught in any disease, in any infectious disease. It means that how many people can this one person transmit the disease to? One of the highest in the world is measles. One child with measles can get measles to 12 to 18 other children. So it is highly infectious. With COVID, it varies. You know, understand? We are still having COVID cases, but it wasn't as high as the one when almost every public and high had COVID, right? So the COVID R naught, the reproducibility number is about 2 to 3. That means every one person will transmit COVID to 2 or 3 people. And then any of those 2 or 3 people too will transmit to another 2 or 3 people, and that's how you have crisis in your hands. And so the whole idea of lockdown was this social distancing was to make sure infected people don't cross. Because once they don't cross, the virus will die once it cannot get to another person. So if somebody is vaccinated, it means that even if the virus comes, the virus cannot enter. So if you have 10 people in a room and 3 of them are vaccinated, or let's say 7 of them are vaccinated, 3 are not vaccinated, the likelihood that those 3 people will get COVID, if COVID enters that room, is very unlikely, except they have offended their gods and village people are pursuing them, because the 7 people will act as a shield. And that's the whole concept of herd immunity. Herd immunity does not mean we have to have 100% compliance. It means that we have to have enough compliance so that when the virus comes, enough people will block it. So let's say the virus wants to enter an office now. 7 of the people in that office are vaccinated. They are protected. So they go and open the door. As the virus is trying to enter from outside, it meets them. It bounces back. It doesn't stay. So they somehow can help to protect those other people. So there is really no reason to leave unvaccinated people, keep them together to be spreading evil among themselves, and then vaccinated people segregate them. I don't think that's necessary at all. In fact, what you want to do is to insert the vaccinated and non-vaccinated so everybody can be protected. Now, of course, there cannot be emotional feelings of, I have taken the vaccine, you have lost, you want to cobalize me with your own problem. But that is not true. Again, that is where education comes in. To let people know that if somebody has not taken the vaccine, while they are vaccinated, you can help to protect that person. Remember again that there are people that legit cannot take the vaccine, so you can help to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adefolarin, for that insight. Now, we have quite a number of, so to speak, highly cerebral people among the HR community and among a management team, generally in many organizations. Some of them have raised this concern that with vaccination, what really is changing? In the sense that in spite of vaccination, you still say that someone who has been vaccinated can still transfer or can still have the virus and can still transfer it. With vaccination, we are still encouraged to use nose mask and observe physical distancing. So what if we don't take the vaccination and maintain all these other protocols as an organization?
Okay, so yeah, the challenge with COVID is there's something we call the Swiss cheese model in infectious prevention and control. And Swiss cheese, we don't do a lot of cheeses in Nigeria. They are very expensive, So, but if you don't understand this Swiss cheese, it has a lot of holes. But the holes are at different layers. So whatever you are trying to do to protect yourself from having COVID is a mechanism that has a lot of holes because the virus will get through. But what you try to do is to create different layers. So that when there's a hole somewhere, use another layer to block it where there's no hole. And at the end of the day, there's a kind of protection that you get. Now, what are we talking about? One size does not fit all. You can't say you are doing masks, you will not do social distance. You can't say you are doing social distance, you will not do masks. You can't say you are doing the two, but you will not wash your hands. You can't say, okay, now the problem with saying that you are vaccinated and you still have to continue this thing is that it's not written on the forehead who is vaccinated and who is not. And then I come in, I'm a top chief infectious disease, COVID. Some people see me and call me a COVID doctor, and then they see me going around not wearing masks. How many of them will understand that I'm not doing that because I've been vaccinated? And then you set a bad example, and then people start to worry what is going on. So we still have to, until we get a reasonable amount of people when we get a huge population, a percentage of the population protected, then we can, matches will resume. You know, I'm supposed to be watching Arsenal Everton now. I will soon go there. I hope they have not flogged us. You know, but you can see what's going on in the football world. Losing billions of revenue that they wanted to form European Super League before their enemies countered it, you know, some days ago. But the whole idea was because there was no money. And there was no money because fans are not coming to the stadium. Why are fans not coming to the stadium? Because they want to vaccinate enough people that when they vaccinate them, they will come. So by the time they start coming, they will still be using masks, right? But after some time, then when we have enough people that are protected, then we can take all that away. So you saying that the vaccination does not change anything is not really correct. Because vaccination is one of the best proven ways. Vaccination is preventive. Guys, look, we have seen things with COVID. I have people that spent almost 100 million on COVID and they did not survive. If you give those people vaccine, they will collect it from you. In fact, they will buy the entire factory. There were people who had money, they wanted to fly out of the country, no country was going to take them. There were people who were taking, or they died on the way to the airport. If any of these people had vaccine, what are we talking about? Are you told them that this vaccine will prevent you from doing this? I mean, they are probably looking down from heaven and looking at us like, sorry, I mean, with all, I mean, in English, like, are these people okay? Are they normal? Why are they doing this? So the reality is that there is no rational thinking. Even with the side effects, we know the AstraZeneca can cause blood clots in certain people. In fact, some countries have suspended it. Some countries have restricted the use to only people older than 50 because most of these blood clots have been seen in younger people. But life is a risk. You can't say you are not going to get out of your house because a car can hit you. You have accidents every day. I work in the hospital every single day. The motor hits somebody somewhere. So you can't say because of that, you're going to leave you're not going to come out of the house because you're afraid that car will hit you. So when we give you something in medicine, it means that the risk, the benefit is far more than the risk. And so we can say, take it and everything will be fine. So that's where we are. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow. In other words, as HR professionals, as leaders of organizations,